natural health and healing show with one of New England's leading nutritionists, Mark Minkova. The show is brought to you by the Good Health Stores in Hanover and Quincy. Call Mark at 781-837-4900 with your health and nutrition questions. Now, here's Mark. Nations.
Good evening and welcome. We have a very special friend in studio this evening. Friend and relative, my son Nick. Nick, say hello to everybody.
Hello, Pop. Hello, everybody. Good to be here.
Great to have you on board. Nick, of course, has been working heartily down at Good Health Natural Foods. How's everything down at Good Health?
Everything's great.
Everything's great. And how's everything at acupuncture school?
Very busy. Doing my best.
Good man. Good man. We have some interesting information to share with you this evening, and he will certainly chime in and make a very strong contribution because of his wonderful expertise with regards to some of the available supplements that we're going to talk about down at Good Health Natural Foods. We're going to talk about something very near and dear to all your hearts. We're going to talk about metabolic cardiology. Metabolic cardiology is a revolutionary sort of new way of understanding and treating heart disease. When you consider the fact that a lot of folks, of course, get up in the morning and maybe take a long walk or a jog, or during the course of the week or the weekend, they may get out and play some golf, play some tennis, ride a bike or two, and whatnot. And I think folks know what it feels like to get out of bed the next day and to feel that sort of that stiff and sore muscle activity. And unfortunately, we really have just begun to think about the heart in treatment, for example, in prevention of heart disease as a muscle. And of course, it is the most powerful muscle in the human body. And when you consider, at 70 beats per minute, I did a little math before I came over tonight, 70 beats per minute, that's 4,200 per hour. That's 100,800 per day. That's 36,792,000 per year. And in the course of a lifetime, your heart produces 2.5 billion heartbeats.
Hard worker.
Hard worker. And a muscle that never gets a break. So as I pointed out a few moments ago, you get out and you take that long walk, maybe a little further than you should because you had a lovely day, and decided, hey, I feel good, the day's great, I'm going to walk a couple mile or two extra. And you felt terrific and couldn't really put any weight on your legs the next morning because you were so stiff and sore, because those muscles worked a little extra hard. Yet they get to take some time off. Those muscles get to communicate to you, suggest that you overdid it, and force you to give them a rest. The heart doesn't have that advantage, of course. The heart, as we just pointed out, 2.5 billion consistent heartbeats from beginning of a life to the end of a life, and never with a break. And yet it is a muscle. So in recent years, we've been contending with a problem called heart disease, of course, in a myriad of different ways, of course, mostly pharmaceutical, surgical, etc. But when you consider the problem of 700,000 deaths per year, that's 750,000 Americans that are dying from heart disease every year, 30% of whom don't really have to die, 30% of whom could make changes in diet, behavior, lifestyle, stress, etc., and actually, completely turn their lives and their heart health around. From 2000 to the year 2002, women ages 35 to 54 showed an estimated mortality rate increase of 1.5%. 1.5%. So, we think that we're getting the jump on heart disease. We think that the present standard by which orthodoxy is operating with regards to the prevention of and treatment of heart disease, we just automatically assume that we're making gains, and we're not making gains. We're absolutely at a standstill in most numbers. And in terms of, like we said a moment ago, women 35 to 54 showing an estimated mortality rate increase in heart disease-related deaths. So women have joined the ranks of men, unfortunately, for a myriad of reasons. I'm sure we can all imagine what they are. But, diet, lifestyle, stress certainly play very central roles in these numbers and in this profoundly important issue. Worldwide, it's a huge issue. We're losing 8 million people per year on this planet due to heart disease. 8 million per year, of course, not to mention the costs. $304 billion per year does heart disease cost Americans. So we have a very serious problem. But again, in terms of the manner in which the establishment is treating the problem, the manner in which we're strategically approaching the problem of heart disease, it's really been revolutionized in recent years. We always point to a wonderful book on the topic, actually one of my favorite books, The Sinatra Solution, which is one of the really first terrific best-selling works on the idea of metabolic cardiology. What is metabolic cardiology? When we think again about the way heart disease has been treated, the standard, I guess I'd say, approach to treating heart disease has been, to prevent the problem by lowering cholesterol with statin drugs. We currently spend $30 billion on the 36 million Americans currently taking cholesterol-lowering statin drugs. And unfortunately, we've been blitzed with this information. One of the keys that I like to bring out all the time is that in July of 2004, there was an official governmental committee, the National Cholesterol Education Program, published its updated cholesterol guidelines. And 8 million Americans suddenly became new candidates for cholesterol-lowering statin drugs, driving up the market revenues an additional $10 billion per year. But after the fact, it was revealed that 8 of the 9 panelists that handed down the decision have received grants or consulting payments from statin manufacturers. So obviously there's a little bit of muddied water there. Not surprised to have discovered such a thing. However, when confronted about the lack of full disclosure, the National Cholesterol Education Program stated that it omitted to publish this detail, simply claiming that it was a mere oversight. You can believe that. I don't. So what is the deal here? Is cholesterol the demon? Are statins the miracle? I think not. We're going to talk a great deal about that, and we're going to talk about what I think is the real solution and the future solution, which is metabolic cardiology. You can take an active role. You can make the difference, and you can start tonight. We'll be right back.
Hi, this is Laura from Good Health. This year, let us help you save money. Make every dollar count. Come by our stores in Quincy Center and Route 53 in Hanover. We've got everything you need year-round. Organic produce, natural groceries, vitamins, and health and beauty items for everyone on your list. Visit us at goodhealthnaturalfood.com for monthly specials and new cutting-edge products. Thanks for listening.
Right in our area, we are fortunate to have one of the top martial arts schools in the country, Personal Best Karate. Personal Best has been recognized for their community involvement, professional staff development, character building programs, and exciting educational curriculum. Personal Best stands at the top of their industry. 5 locations offering personalized professional instruction. Not sure if karate is right for you? At no obligation, the staff at Personal Best will guide you in a private introductory program to see if karate is indeed the right fit to help you achieve your goals and meet your needs. What does karate at Personal Best teach you? Character building, success habits, helps you get in shape, relieve stress, self-control, setting goals, and of course, self-defense. Personal Best's goal is to create successful, contributing members of society through the practice of the martial arts at Personal Best. Mr. Chris Rappold is, of course, the founder of Personal Best Karate. He tells me his greatest joy of all is to see the personal transformation in each and every student. Bring out your best with Personal Best Karate. Telephone number 508-285-5425. That's 508-285-5425. Locations in Norton, Foxborough, Southeaston, Franklin, and Taunton. That's Personal Best Karate.
Alrighty, welcome back in. Hope everybody's enjoying their lovely, lovely Sunday. Nick, Great to have you here this evening.
Great to be here.
I want to talk a little bit with you, and feel free to jump in here. We're going to talk a little bit about cholesterol, because I think cholesterol has been demonized, and I think it's been profoundly misunderstood. Number one key point here before we really get into the solution, which I think is metabolic cardiology. And I think so many people out there are going to learn, not just from this program this evening, but perhaps as time goes on, more terrific books like the Sinatra Solution, which I highly recommend. A little bit of complex nomenclature in there, but still, you're going to get the idea from checking the book out. The book's got a lot of great information. You're going to come away with a tremendous amount of information from this book. But I think it's really important to emphasize that cholesterol is really grossly misunderstood. Number one, cholesterol is necessary. That's why it's in the body. Now, cholesterol basically waterproofs a cell, it insulates cells, it produces cellular integrity. So the idea of, to me, the idea of completely obliterating cholesterol from a cell is really irresponsible.
Catastrophic.
Let's think about the idea of you in January. Let's pull all the insulation out of your house in the month of January.
Not going to be a good one at all.
Not a good one at all. So, cholesterol is really, in many respects, a DNA insulator. Protects us. We take 30,000 DNA hits a day. 30,000 a day. Every cell is constantly being assaulted by free radicals. So you need some degree of integrity, some insulation. You need some form of what I would call density, cellular density, and that's exactly what cholesterol is. And I think the other key point here too is that in 1946, quite some time ago, researchers Peters and Van Slyke. There's a classic called the Clinical Chemistry report that's really an industry standard that talks about lipid work and cholesterol and the importance of diet, etc. And they claim that there was absolutely no indication that elevated cholesterol plays more than a contributing role in some forms of heart disease. As recently as 1957, the American Heart Association was still not even convinced in the direct causal relationship between cholesterol and heart disease. Nonetheless, it was only about 4 years later, in the early 1960s, 1961 to be exact, that a governing body, a scientific body of influential advocates, mostly with pharmaceutical ties, spearheaded what has become, what I call a 50-year misguided campaign for single-cause theory of heart disease. It's one of those classic problem-solution faux pas. One of those campaigns to try to find a solution, create a problem, find a single-cause theory for a problem, and then you come up with a solution and you've got it made. And I think that that's pretty much what happened with the cholesterol myth. And I think that when you think about the Nobel Prize research that Dr. Michael Brown from MIT was awarded 2 Nobel Prizes in 1984, and Dr. Michael Brown basically won those 2 medical Nobel Prizes for his work on the HMG coenzyme A reductase dissertation, which basically simply proved, folks, that 80% of the cholesterol in your body is manufactured by your own liver. 80%. And he further found that it's triggered by insulin. Okay, so that every time you and I eat sugar or white bread or white rice or white flour, these highly glycemic carbohydrates, 80% of our cholesterol is driven from that metabolism. So by not qualifying the type of carbohydrates and by recklessly consuming highly processed carbohydrates, it drives up our insulin levels, and that is where 80% of your liver's manufacturing of cholesterol is derived. That's the truth, and that was something we awarded 2 Nobel Prizes for as far back as 1984. So I think it's really exceptionally important that people get this message here, that the heart disease issue and the corollary with a single cause theory of heart disease is absolutely crazy. It's crazy. Heart disease is a conglomerate. It's a number of issues. It's a metabolic problem. And even if we're going to take the issue of cholesterol, I think we need to be more responsible about the research out there. There's been viable research done even at Harvard University that said the most significant of all these numbers is the ratio between total cholesterol and HDL, or good cholesterol. If your total cholesterol in ratio to your good cholesterol is 3.5 to 1 or less, you don't have any worries. And I continue to see patients week in and week out that are being driven down lower and lower and lower as far as their total cholesterol goes. And that is simply, in my estimate, completely and utterly irresponsible, throwing the baby out with the bathwater. You don't want to drive that cholesterol down. As we've said repeatedly on this program, cholesterol has a purpose. And the issue to me really is, I like the University of North Carolina study as well that suggests that, you want to be at that high ratio, the 3.5 to 1 or less, rather, ratio of good HDL, total cholesterol, rather, to HDL. So 3.5 to 1 or less when your ratio is being estimated between total and good stuff, total and high. So I think the key really, I talked to a specialist not too many years ago. I had the great pleasure of having a conversation with a gentleman who is one of the top 5 heart specialists in the world. And he said, I can tell you one thing. He said, if you throw out all the other numbers, if you literally throw out virtually every other category of risk, and he said, if you basically look over my 25 years of being, one of the world's top 5 heart specialists, I never see a patient that has an HDL of 70 or higher. I've never seen a patient who needed surgery, who needed intervention with an HDL that was 70 or higher. So I always tell people, look, if your HDLs are elevated, if you have a good HDL, good cholesterol of 75, 78, 80, I've seen some in the corporate environment. I've seen women with cholesterols, good cholesterols of 120, 130. 130 is the highest I've seen. And if their total cholesterol is, let's say over 220, but your HDL, your good stuff, is 120, 130, what is the worry? Forget it. And yet, you still have people worrying them about their total cholesterol because they've been bludgeoned with this campaign to just drive down total cholesterol. And all that's going to do is sell more Lipitor. And that's exactly what it has served to do. So, number one issue of the evening is let's clear up the cholesterol myth, at least from one perspective. And as we said, too, I think that back in July of 2004, the National Cholesterol Education Program, publishing its updated cholesterol guidelines to really rope in another 8 million statin users is something that I just don't really have any way to get my head around. Nonetheless, I think it's really important for people to realize that HDL can be elevated dietarily with exercise and with fatty salmon, for example. And again, important issues here. You don't want to be using farm-raised salmon because farm-raised salmon is fed in such a way that the lipid ratios are imbalanced between omega-3s and omega-6s. Therefore, farm-raised salmon is not going to elevate your good cholesterol. In fact, it can be, in many cases, a negative contributor.
Pro-inflammatory.
Pro-inflammatory, absolutely correct. There's one study that I actually read from the Alaska Department of Commerce that did some research on this. And they compared some of the farm-raised salmon in Alaska with some of the wild salmon in Alaska. They found that in some cases, the farm-raised was up to 200 times higher in fats, saturated fats. 200 times higher. That's crazy. That's absolutely nuts. And why do people consume salmon? Because they know it's a heart smart food. Well, they're getting duped. So you want to make sure, folks, when you're going to get your salmon to lower that cholesterol, that bad cholesterol, and to elevate your good cholesterol, and to really create more of a heart smart nutritional choice for yourselves, what you want to look for is you want to look for the wild salmon. Also, folks are always interested in knowing more about flax. Flax is the single most elevated form of omega-3. There's nothing higher in omega-3 than flax. So in terms of a whole food, if you will, or a real viable natural whole food supplement, you crush up your flax seeds, put them on something, put them on your breakfast in the morning, and 2 tablespoons of these crushed whole refrigerated flax seeds. I always say you get a dedicated coffee grinder, and you get yourself a couple heaping tablespoons in there and grind them up and throw them in your breakfast in the morning. That's a great way to get that omega-3 up. Other ways to get your omega-3 up, if you're not allergic to tree nuts, walnuts will elevate your omega-3s. pumpkin seeds. Jarrow, we're going to talk a little bit later more about the Jarrow supplements, the Jarrow formula supplements. But Jarrow makes actually